look at this. Ah. Killua really needed this. This is good. This is good. I'm happy. Grandpa. Yeah. Oh, Chitu, don't do it. No, it's the opposite. Not like this. Not like this, Chitu, come on. Yeah, he's really quite dejected at the moment. Oh god, Chitu, you can still walk away. Come on. But he's not going to, is he? Yeah. He's had quite the... Not the day, it's only been a few minutes, but... Komugi. It doesn't even register for him. Yeah. You can see Zeno just wants to get that thought out though, right? He doesn't need to do... Oh, it got cut off. Did he call in like a strike? Oh my god. Oh no. Chitu. He called in... Well, I mean, I don't know if he... This is insane. Ah. It's his ride. Glorious. Yeah, he did. Maybe you should listen to this one, man. You know, the king and the walk and all of that, right? Through the middle, Netero and Zeno. It depends, man. It really does. Yeah. He has. Ooh, right. He's been talking about his new ability, right? Back in the apartment complex room. Okay. Oh, don't get hit. Payback, right? Look at this. Ooh. Against the grain, against authority, for his friends. For the most part. Ah, look at that. He stopped. Right. He's not gonna run away from the king, right? Yeah. Almost like an afterthought. And chasing Knuckle out there is the opposite of that. Yeah, he's the one that's the most out of the loop. Oh, that's great. The shield. I love the voice acting. Oh no, is he gone? No, he's okay. He's still hanging in there. Ooh. I mean, they did just describe that, you know, these enemies don't matter to him anymore. Or in the grand scheme of things. That's gotta sting. It's not part of his directive. Oh, like I said, that's gotta sting. Oh, look at this. Almost kind of looking like Yuppie. Oh. Careful, Knuckle. Careful now. Whoa. Whoa. Great acting, man. You feel how frustrated he is now. I mean, yeah, you can't really leave Yuppie there. It's part of your mission. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You know, the concept of dignity and respect.
3階へと向かったであろうユピーの表情を思い、新たに生まれた誤算にナックル自身も気がついた。ダチを侮辱されたまま黙って見過ごす。何のため？世界のため。人類のため。ダチを侮辱されたまま。できるわけがねえ。ありえねえ。
They gave us a little flashback, real quick flashback about how he handles things with friends. Just kind of dropped him there. Oh no, oh my god. Kind of like Gon and Hisoka. Listen, it's not the smart thing to do, but I get it. You know, I get it. Yeah, like Killua and Gon. But do you feel like doing that now? Oh. Ooh. You know, this is, yeah, it's a different shoot, of course. This newfound pride of his, it's been bruised. Yeah, he knows it's not the right. Whoa. Yeah, against authority, against the grain, for his friend. But that's still interesting. Let's kind of talk about that after the episode. Wow, he's getting really annoyed now. Understandably so. That's the unknown. I mean, it's a choice, of course. Ooh, second guessing. Ooh. A lot of doubt there, creeping in. Okay, there you go. But then, he pulled it together. That might have been the whole point of this, maybe. There's a lot of unknowns for him. Yeah, your mind can go there if you don't have any answers. Oh god. Careful, Knuckle. Come on. I get it, but careful. Yeah. This is the risk. Oh no. Yeah. He's hulking out. And Hulk smash. That is so cool. Just the art The art style there? Look who it is. Take it in, take it in. He's come to his senses. At least for now, live to fight. Whoa. Whoa, I just got chills. Yeah, it's been building and building since the beginning of the episode. Ah. Become an enforcer. I mean... But it looks like Yuppie's also realized something there. Because Yuppie must be thinking now, you know, seek and destroy, be the enforcer. Oh, this is great, look at this. But selfish ability, okay, it's kind of... Burst of emotion. Yeah, it's deliberate. Because if he has control, it's... Ah, that's right. Seek and destroy. Be the enforcer. I suppose. Look at this. Checking in. The stage is set. But also, let's not forget the setup in the beginning of the episode, right? You know, Melioron and Killua, right? He believes he only needs one chance. So I'm sure that's going to play a part. Okay, so that's the follow-up, eh? And yeah, you know, I've got to say, it feels like the right approach. It does, you know, given the intensity of the last episode. I mean, that's as intense as it gets, right? Though, you know, that's not to say that this episode doesn't have intensity as well. I mean, you know, right near the conclusion, or, you know, building up toward the conclusion, it does get really quite intense, doesn't it? Right? But the thing is, anything is a bit of a relief, or, you know, bit of a breather in comparison to the last episode. I mean, you know, of course, it certainly links it to this episode in the beginning, you know, a bit of the aftermath. You know, this time showing us Killua on the other end of that room. Yeah, it's rough. It really is. And, you know, the thing I really, really liked about this is that, you know, this time he's got others like Melioron, right, to kind of pick him up in this moment and kind of, you know, maybe help him just momentarily, at least, you know, kind of forget about the things that happen inside. Now, I'm assuming he might have filled him in about Gon and the situation on the inside, you know, the other royal guard that's in there, Neferpito, and her task at the moment, and just her, you know, behavior, her demeanor, her approach, right? I'm sure, you know, Melioron is quite surprised himself, right? Pleasantly surprised, perhaps, to hear about this, you know, to hear about Neferpito's attitude about all of this. But again, you know, that's just speculation. It's entirely possible that they didn't even speak about anything other than, just kind of meeting up. And let's just kind of keep it at that, and let's just kind of focus on the people that they can help at the moment, right? And he fills them in about that situation for sure, right? Shoot and Knuckle and Montata Yuppie, and how, he could use his help. And then, of course, there's a setup for Killua's big moment, perhaps. I think there's a good chance that he'll have quite a grand entrance. They've been alluding this new ability of his. He himself kind of spoke of it. So maybe the initial plan isn't quite the same, right, in terms of the debut of the ability, but it might be used for good nonetheless, and to good effect, perhaps. Listen. Knuckle, certainly, from his perspective, things look like, okay, they can use this. They can use this new, chink in the armor, perhaps, that from his perspective again. But then, on the flip side, you see that Montata Yuppie also understands that, okay, if he can harness this, if he can, truly use it, he can really, really serve the king in that capacity, right? This newfound ability of his. That he's kind of tapped into. It's not really an ability. It is an ability, but it's more so about tapping into just, a different part of his, output, right? Overall output. But going back to my initial point, isn't it just so great that Killua has others, right? To turn to at this point. And, the thing is, initially, Melioron is actually Gon's friend, right? But, that's besides the point. At the end of the day, they all became friendly. You look at Ikalgo and how everyone took to Ikalgo. You see how Shoot and Knuckle took to Melioron. So it's lovely. It's lovely to see this. The thing is, I get just as excited about characters like Melioron and Ikalgo, right? And, Welfin is kind of beginning to creep up there as well in terms of, how intriguing his introduction's been. Or his inclusion's been in this arc, this, key component of the arc, right? I got a quick glimpse of him as well, taking in the situation, kind of reading the situation from a distance, before he makes a move or before he makes like a big, switch or, a big play perhaps. But yeah, even he's kind of shocked about the things that are playing out here. But yeah, Ikalgo, Melioron, I really, really adore these characters. But yeah, apparently a minute in God's accomplice is good enough because apparently Killua only needs one chance, right? So I'm assuming, this new ability of his might be kind of similar to his father, who I actually see in this episode. That's the last thing I was expecting to see. Like, it wasn't even on my radar, right? I was lucky enough to get one Zoldyck. And of course, Killua is a part of the arc as a whole. So I'm not really even speaking of Killua. I'm speaking of Zeno here. I was excited to get just Zeno. And the thing is, by the end of this, or by the end of Zeno and Silva's exit, I'm really left wanting more of them. Just the two of those together, they appear to have such great chemistry and banter, right? It makes sense, of course, father-son relationship. But, even there's a lot of fun quirks, right? You see that to Silva, it's still kind of like his old man, right? And from time to time, in Silva's opinion or from his perspective, his old man likes to, just, babble on, right? And I think he said something, I've got to learn to ignore you from time to time, ignore or pick and choose the things I listen to or pick up on. Even though, Zeno is actually talking about something really, really quite fascinating, something that's essentially happened to him for the first time in his storied and legendary career, right? The segments on Zeno are really, really quite fantastic, aren't they? Even though, they're not as, lengthy, I think they're still really quite effective, short but sweet. Even though, in those same segments, the homie Chitu ends up dying. My God. It's some death though. There's that. Okay. There is that, it's unfortunate, at least, in my opinion, that Chitu ends up dying, here and now. But the death he got is an iconic death. I couldn't even tell at first. I thought, maybe Zeno had some kind of like, ability to call in a strike. But, right before it happened, he noticed, I suppose he noticed the dragon. They're flying on that dragon. How insane is that? I mean, it almost feels like an afterthought, but I'm just kind of thinking about it right now. Their ride is a dragon. I mean, the Zoldycks are so damn cool, man. They just are. Anytime that theme plays, anytime they're on screen, anytime there's a mention of the Zoldyck clan, it's just a treat. It really is. And one of the reasons I do find them so cool, and perhaps one of the reasons they do seem to have this mystique about them, is also because of the really selective screen presence, right? Or screen time, rather. That just kind of builds up that, sense of, I don't know, again, intrigue, that legendary status, and just, this unknown of all the things they've been up to as assassins, as the greatest assassins at that. But even the greatest assassins can have a first. And for Zeno Zoldyck, there's been a few firsts. And it really is kind of clear to see, isn't it, that it's done a bit of a number on someone like Zeno Zoldyck, right? He's dejected. He's just kind of done with all of this. He just wants to get out of here. He's not in the mood to tango with Cheetu, who he could easily just obliterate, but he's just not. He's just so out of it, right? And there's good reason for it, right? And he tells Cheetu, of all people, right? And to me, it really felt like he needs to get this off his chest. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter to him if it's just Cheetu, right? He just really wanted to get it out there, right? Just kind of speak it out loud, right? That, for the first time since taking over the family business, he might have just killed an innocent person, a civilian that had nothing to do with, his mission, his paid gig. And yeah, he's been really quite dejected about that, right? And ultimately, it's essentially a blemish on a perfect record, a blemish on the code of the Zoldyck clan, the practices of the Zoldyck clan, right? A blemish on a storied career. And yeah, it's one of those things he's going to have to live with from this point on. And then a little bit later on, once he's extracted from the pickup spot, I suppose, after, Cheetu's death, again, a surprise cameo appearance by Silva Zoldyck. And, before I forget, listen, folks, I know that, Cheetu's not a fan favorite or anything. If I've seen some of the comments, a lot of, most people don't like him. They don't care for Cheetu. For some reason, I took to Cheetu. As you know, I took to him almost immediately, since the first time I saw him. And listen, Cheetu's actually been around for a long time. I spoke of characters like Welfin, but Cheetu's been there since day one, essentially since day one. You think of the whole NGL arc of this, or component of this, right? He's been around, man. He's had his run-ins with a lot of people, right? Be it Moral, be it Knuckle. He's been out there, out and about, of course, to ultimately return. And then, there's that part of it as well. He gets abilities, right? He tries out those abilities against Moral. Then he had another ability, but unfortunately, no one gets to see it. No one gets to see it. But, I've got to say, it was a little bit sad to see him die in that manner, but also really quite epic at the same time to die in that manner, if that makes sense. But yeah, I like Cheetu. I did. There's a really fun energy about that character. There's a really fun voice acting performance about that character. I just took to him. That's all I can really say. It's a preference thing. Listen, I can see how others could find him annoying. I didn't find him annoying. I find other characters annoying, perhaps, that others might not find annoying. Now let's get back to Cheetu or G2. Now let's kind of just, as like a hypothetical, if it wasn't a surprise attack, does Silva Zoldyck still one-shot him? I don't know. Listen, Silva Zoldyck is a bad motherfucker. He is so damn cool. He is just so damn impressive. Actually, let me finish up my point. I kind of forgot. I was speaking of how, Silva had an ability back in the York New City arc, right? And I see it against Chrollo. He needs to charge it up, and you see that Zeno kind of had to hold Chrollo down, or he had to make sure that Chrollo doesn't leave that, spot. So yeah, I was kind of trying to make the point about how, Killua might have a similar charge up aspect to his ability, similar to his father. A lot of things are similar to Zeno and Silva as far as Killua is concerned. So maybe that's why he felt that, okay, 1 minute is more than enough. And, this kind of reminds me of the other point that ultimately, Knuckle could find himself on the ropes, and, a Killua Zoldyck appearance could be most welcome, So yeah, let's see how all of that plays out. I'll kind of come back to that. I kind of want to focus a bit on, the Zoldycks, because you don't get chances to really focus on them too often. So let me kind of focus on them as much as possible, I suppose. So again, hypothetically, if it's not a surprise attack, right, death from above, look at that, eh? Could G2 actually maybe hang in there for a bit? I think he could, because G2 does have his speed. Now, I'm not saying that G2 actually could have beaten Silva or Zeno, but I think he might have had a better chance, at least hang in there for a bit, But, as Zeno said, the result, it would have been the same, regardless if I attacked you or Silva attacked you. But yeah, Silva came in to retrieve his father. And of course, there's a bit of a conversation about Killua because, of course, Silva, he wants to know how things are going, how he's doing out there, right? Because it appears that Silva knows about this situation as well. And it appears that indeed Zeno knew about, Killua being there, right? Before actually coming into the situation himself, right? Through the dragon dive. And Silva clearly knew about it as well. And yeah, essentially it was the same assessment I had from a couple of episodes ago, right? That Zeno does feel that there is maturity within Killua, right, in those eyes. And that ultimately, yes, he has removed Illumi's needle. So official confirmation that both Zeno and Silva knew about the needle. But again, it remains to be seen if that was an order that was given to Illumi to, go through with this needle implant thing of his, or if it was actually Illumi's thing and then, he told, the higher ups about it, Zeno and Silva. But I don't know, the way they spoke of it, it appears to be something that was just kind of like a thing that was always going to happen, And, it's entirely possible that perhaps, removing the needle itself was one of the tests for Killua as well, right? And perhaps, from their perspective, from Zeno and Silva's perspective, it's another test that he's passed. And then, of course, if you go back to the, the Zoldyck Estate arc, the mini arc, there's a significant moment, right? Silva believes that, Killua is going to return at some point. Right, he's really sure of it. Now, there's a new dimension to this as well. Now that I know that, he knew about the needle as well. Is it possible that he knew that, or he really truly felt that, okay, Killua is going to be able to remove the needle at some point. And then, because of that clarity, he's going to have a reason to come back. And then finally coming back to the incident or the experience that he was about to share with Silva about his time being compressed. Yeah, it really appears to be the first time something like this has happened to him, right? To Zeno Zoldyck. And the time being compressed is that experience he and Netero had with Meruem, right? Just easily walking through the two of them. At that point, it must have felt like they are about to die. And again, that kind of goes back to the whole notion of his time being compressed. And, this is one of those things that you kind of have to be on top of in episode 111, right? You have to really kind of pay attention to that explanation the narrator gives us or gives to us. Actually, it's Zeno himself who's explaining that in episode 111, right? In that segment. Yeah, that's right. So isn't it just so interesting that soon after that scene, just in the follow-up episode 112, Zeno is the one who experiences just that, right? His time being compressed because, it truly felt like this is it, they're at Meruem's mercy. He had no intention of actually killing them, but the fact that he's, able to do that, right? The fact that he's able to, catch him by surprise in that manner, right? Because they let their guards down. Again, out of respect to the moment, to the situation at hand, he could have killed them. He could have killed them, and they felt that. So, it's moments like these that really kind of reiterate just how incredible these beings are, or, specifically King Meruem, right? That this is an unknown, right? A complete unknown that's been born into the world. And, it's one of the reasons that Netero's kind of also been excited about this, coming together. Though, it wasn't as exciting once they do kind of find out that, their dragon dive entrance caused a potential death, right? Thankfully, Komugi is being healed at the moment, again, under the watchful eye of Gone Freaks, right? 1 hour. 1 hour is all he's going to allocate. to this. But again, Neferpito believes that, okay, maybe in an hour's time, she can, take care of the most critical injuries and she'll be out of danger. But again, that being said, is she truly going to be out of danger in Gon's presence? Right now, Gon is kind of hard to gauge, or his next move is kind of hard to gauge, especially because, he really isn't on board with trusting Neferpito. But yeah, that's the end of Xenozolidic's part in all of this. And listen, at the end of the day, it's integral, isn't it? Dragon Dive is integral to all of it. It truly is, to kick it off. But yeah, let's see if Xenozolidic or FILMBuFF or any of the Zolidics make another appearance before the anime is out, right? The 148 episodes, I'm inching closer and closer, right? And the thing is, it's really kind of difficult to gauge how many more episodes I have of the Chimera Ant arc. Not that I really want it to end or anything anytime soon. This arc, that is. I'm sure I've got a decent amount of episodes still left ahead of me. But, I'm kind of still thinking about maybe I could get something else. Maybe I'll get the conclusion to this and then, a bit of something else. But speaking of beyond the 148 episodes of the anime, yeah, my understanding at this point in time is that there's not enough material just yet to, have the anime come back, right? Another run, another season of Hunter x Hunter, perhaps. Again, that's my understanding at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it doesn't seem like the return of the Hunter x Hunter anime is on the horizon, right? It's not in the near future. But I do hear about Togashi being back, and, he's been back at it for a decent amount of time, apparently. So that's good news. If he's back, that means he's feeling a bit better, right? His health conditions. So that's good. That's really, really good news. Togashi is one of our great creators, one of our great storytellers, right? So I'm always so incredibly happy to come across news of him feeling much better, right? Good enough, or in good enough health that he can continue, right? The thing he loves most. But yeah, going back to my initial point, if indeed any potential return for the anime is really, really far off, right? That it's not even really in the works, or there's no plans at all for it. There's a good chance, I'd say there's a good chance I'll move on to the manga. Now, listen, folks, I think I have to be really upfront about this. It's really highly unlikely that I'll do like actual manga reactions, but I am completely open to actually continuing on into the manga, right? Now, of course, if that happens, again, I have to be upfront. I don't think it'll be immediately after I finish the anime. I'll give it a bit of a break. It's always good to have a bit of a break. And once I feel like the timing is right, I'll jump into the manga. And, I think I'll take more of a traditional review approach, right? I'll read the chapters or, one full volume of the manga, I suppose. I guess I'll find out how it's all broken down. And essentially it'll be the same as this, right? Same type of analysis, but again, minus any, reaction portion. But yeah, I do think it could be exciting, a bit of a different type of approach. Perhaps I'll be incorporating the manga panels as well in the analysis portion. Yeah. So, I'm open to it. I just kind of want to put it out there. I am open to that, right? Because again, the anime just looks exceedingly unlikely anytime soon, or the continuation of the anime rather. But yeah, let's get back to the episode itself. Once again, there's a lot of fantastic character work. And the thing I love so much is how intimate it can be, given the insane scale of this, given the monstrous scale of this arc, and just this, situation, right? The palace situation, and all the different, things that are at play, all the different setups, all the different, encounters that are at play that are essentially highlighted by the end of the episode, once again, by the narrator. And in this one, it's a focus on Knuckle and Yuppie. That is most welcome, right? The focus on Yuppie. Because, up until this point, it's mainly been, Neferpito and FILMBuFF, right? In the focus, especially given the fact that those two are the ones that do have a personality. They do have, their own agenda or their own, outlook on things, right? Or rather their own opinions on things, right? Especially pertaining to the king. But yeah, Yuppie's always kind of been there, right? He's always there, he's the shield. He's not much for agendas. And again, it all kind of checks out given, his buildup, magical beasts and all of that, and Chimera ants. Those two things being at play rather than, his human nature being at play.
So, a lot of those things are just completely missing. They're not even a part of his buildup, right? But yeah, it's great. It's great to finally kind of get a focus on Yuppie as well. And I certainly hope there's more of that to come, right? And the signs are good, of course. The setup is really fantastic going into, the next couple of episodes, perhaps. Yuppie is learning as well. He's seeing things in the field. He's, picking up on things about himself, the things he's capable of, the things he could do differently. Right now, he's beginning to look at things a little bit differently. Now, it's more so about being proactive rather than reactive. Right now, it's all about, and it became really quite clear to me earlier on as well. Now it's more so about, seeking and destroying the king's enemies. And the fact that Yuppie is about to take that approach, it's bad news. It's bad news for Knuckle. It's bad news for Shoot, who's just kind of barely holding on. Listen, if he was taking that approach before, both Knuckle and Shoot would have been dead. They would have been dead. Shoot definitely would have been dead. You see that Yuppie's actually even regretting not killing the fly, as he called it. And of course, Yuppie's dismissive approach to both Shoot and Knuckle, it really, really gets under their skin, doesn't it? But Shoot specifically, right? And then of course, through that, you see that Knuckle understands and realizes, that he cares for Shoot much more than he initially thought. I mean, there is a significant moment that has Knuckle being really quite selfish, right? Really quite selfish. And, the mission be damned, right? Right now, he doesn't care all that much. I mean, listen, okay, he cares about, humanity or saving humanity and the world and all that. But at this moment in time, right, something else supersedes it, right? Pride. It's all about pride at this moment. And, there's different angles to this. You could talk about the ego being bruised, pride being bruised and all of that. But, I think ultimately it's more so about, the warrior spirit, right? The Bushido spirit, just that idea of dignity in defeat, respect and dignity in defeat, right? That mutual respect in combat. They felt that there's a massive absence of that. But ultimately, I do think there is a bit of a disconnect there with Yuppie's line of thinking. I honestly do not think that Yuppie really cared all that much about, a slight to their, pride or, being dismissive of them. He just saw that, okay, one is essentially not a threat at all anymore. And I'm speaking of Shoot, and the other has fled. So he saw no reason to, to leave or to go any further, right? Because ultimately he understood his directive. He understands his mission, his goal, and that is to be the shield for the king. And again, at that point he did believe the king to be in the throne room, and that both FILMBuFF and Neferpitou are in there with him. That was his understanding up until a certain point. Actually, maybe that's still his understanding, right? But you see that caused a lot of confusion, frustration, and he is just on edge. And that is not a Chimera ant or a royal guard that you want in that state, right? Because then you see how things play out. I mean, it all becomes just too much for him. Just all the unknowns, the confusion, not knowing anything about, the current location or the current, status of his king and his two siblings, right? And then on top of that, you've got these flies, if you will, in Knuckle and Shoot, and then this ability that's chasing him, right? And the number keeps going up. He doesn't know the function of the number or anything, or the number going up, but he's just going to assume that, okay, it keeps going up, so that's got to be a bad thing. But yeah, it became too much. So much that there's a literal explosion, right? There's this incredible release of Nen, essentially, of aura. And, I felt that by the end of it, it became really quite clear that this is meant to be a euphemism. This explosive, pleasurable ability of his. The narrator is describing it as the destruction bringing him great pleasure, right? It's satisfying. But then after this, his body rapidly shrank, and, he felt this strong sense of loss. But then also after the explosion, there's a moment of clarity for Yuppie as well, right? That Yuppie's true worth, it became clear after that explosion. And that ultimately Yuppie has learned how to be both enraged and composed. right? That is a scary prospect. It really is, right? As the narrator specified at the end there, it's a great risk for Knuckle now, a major risk. So I mean, there's really exciting setup there, right, into the next episode now. But going back to Knuckles' decision to go against the grain once again, go against authority or the setup, as showcased in the little backstory as well. You see, ultimately it's about honor and respect and dignity in defeat, but more so in this case, his friends' honor and respect and how he's been treated in all of this, given that he was ready to, die in that moment. He fought as if these could be his final moments to then, just be treated as a fly, an afterthought, right? Again, from their perspective, I do think Monteta Yuppie didn't really truly look at it like that. He just kind of kept thinking about the king and, his objective and all of that. And you see that even Shoot understands and he realizes that it's his job to, stop Knuckle from doing something like this. It's really quite reminiscent of Gon and Killua's relationship. Though, in the most recent episode of that, right, of that relationship, Killua attempting to stop Gon from doing something silly or something, that isn't the best idea. Didn't quite play out, did it? But you see that the new Shoot is actually on board, right? He's the one who's actually cheering Knuckle on. That bastard treated me like trash, or he looked at me like trash. Isn't it crazy? The Shoot I first met, I could not imagine him caring about something like that. But again, now that he's had his moment, now that, his cage has been opened up, right? Broken by Gon, assisted by Gon, Shoot does have this newfound pride in himself and his approach, and that pride has been bruised. It has. And, Knuckle says something like, sorry, master, I know, both of us are fools. So there's an understanding of that. They're not acting like, this is the right thing to do. This is the only thing that matters. No. But that right there is so realistic. That right there is so human. They're not robotic. They have their own feelings. Emotions are a thing in this. You see, both of them cry at some point, right? They both have tears at some point. It just feels so authentic. It feels so real to have these characters go through these emotions, right? And not be robotic. And things like this can happen, right? Emotions can take over, right? Making up a plan is one thing. Having all of these plans is one thing. But once you get into the field, these are the types of things that can happen, right? There's something more important than the world right now. How about that, eh? Oh man, these characters are just so authentic, man. So authentic, so flawed, as they should be, because this is human nature. Human nature is at play. It's one of the key components of this arc, and it continues to be, and it's going to be by the end of it as well. And the line of dialogue by the narrator of Knuckles' second mistake being a misjudgment of his priorities. He understood and realized in that moment that, this is the thing he has to prioritize, right? His friend. At least that's my read on it. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in early access or timer-based full length or even full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is, isn't it? And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.